We'll call the Pennington County Commission meeting for October 1st, 2013 to order. We'll stand for a moment of silent reflection and a pledge of allegiance led by Judge Jeff Davis.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is to review and approve the agenda. Does anyone wish to make any changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. I would like to respectfully request to remove item 20 from your agenda today.
Any other requests relative to the agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented with that one change. Item 20 removed.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with item 20 removed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the consent agenda.
All right, for full public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today, I've placed the following items for your consideration. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of September 20th, 2013. Approval of vouchers in the amount of $295,433.54. Approval of the revisions to the video recording policy of the commission meetings. Approval of the service contract agreement with the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks for the Hilltop parking lot as submitted by the Highway Department. Approval of the request to rescind the motion made on 9/20/2013 for the reclassification of the IT Specialist 3 as submitted by the ITS Department. Approval of the amendment with the contract for library services with the Rapid City Public Library. And finally, approval of the request to declare surplus 40 cases of red marking paint for the purposes of donation as submitted by the Weed and Pest Department.
Does anyone wish any of the items on the consent agenda removed?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is item 12, Pennington County Employee Service Recognition Awards. Commissioner Buskerud will do the presentation.
Thank you. This past September 17th in Spearfish, there was a meeting of the State County Commission Association, and at those meetings they give away some safety awards and some recognition awards. Scott Guffey, who I guess can't be here today, was the 2013 winner of the Outstanding Service Award, mainly for his work with the mountain pine beetle, and it was very much appreciated by everybody and throughout the state. Most of the counties appreciate the problems we're having out in the hills, and he has done an outstanding job. There were some safety awards, and given one to the and they were there and collected these awards. One to the Pennington County Highway Department, which is a gold level award. And in looking at my cheat sheet here, it says that the Highway Department in the past has won 2 silver awards and 12 gold awards. So they're very, very conscious about safety out at the Highway Department, which saves us all and the taxpayers a bunch of money. The other one was the Pennington County Buildings and Grounds, which has 2 bronze awards and 12 gold awards in the past, too. So they're very conscious of safety. And when I say it saves us money for liability insurance purposes. So that's a very good thing. The other awards I have are for years of service. And I think some of these people are here. The certificate says Certificate of Appreciation presented to Captain J. Evenson, Pennington County Sheriff's Office / Patrol. It's with respect and appreciation that we recognize your 30 years of dedication, service, and commitment to county government, awarded Monday, the 16th day of September 2013 at the 99th Annual South Dakota County Convention. Captain Evenson. And the rest of them, I'll just read who it is and how many years, because they all basically say the same. From the Pennington County Highway Department, Randy Walker, for 30 years of service. Lieutenant Joe McDonald from the Pennington County PCJ / booking for 25 years of service. From the Pennington County Highway Superintendent, Heine Junge, for 30 years of service. From Pennington County Cartographer, Luann Tovson, for 25 years of service. And last, no, not quite last, from the Pennington County Buildings and Grounds Foreman, James Hohentanner, for 25 years. And last but surely not least, from the Pennington County Health and Human Services, the Director, Karen Romey, for 25 years. Salute.
Thank you, Commissioner Buskerud, and congratulations, and thank you to all that were recognized. Very commendable. Item 13, second reading and public hearing on Ordinance 106, an ordinance for the declaration and abatement of public nuisances to prohibit texting while driving. This was continued from September 20th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I made a motion to approve the first reading of it, and I'm not going to go into too much of it because we've kind of hashed it out a couple of times and realized that it's going to be difficult to enforce, and it is enforceable only in the county, but maybe it will give the city council and the state legislature a second thought on we need to do something about this, folks, and I know the problems are, well, if you do it in the county and you don't do it in the city, people get confused. Well, maybe enough people get enough confused, maybe they'll get on the city council to approve it. And surely our next item will be to address to the state legislature. So if we put enough pressure on them, and perhaps we'll get something done. There's no doubt that texting, your chances of having an accident are 23 times what you are when you're not texting. It is the worst distracted driving that you can possibly have. I know in the past week or two we've seen a young minor in Yankton run over an elderly woman. He said he was adjusting his radio. Up north of that, a woman ran into a car, pushed it in front of a school bus, and someone else got killed. She said she was reaching for her glasses. The other day, even in our community, a young man ran into a school bus and some kids, and luckily no one got killed. And he said the sun was in his eyes. Well, possibly it was all three texting, you don't know. But I think we need to do something, and I would like to do all distracted driving, but I'm afraid that's going to be a little harder to push through the legislature. So I think we'll start with texting, since that's the worst one. And since someone else says, I'll make a motion.
I said something. I'm all
Okay.
for it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second reading of amendment to Pennington County Ordinance 106, ordinance for declaration of payment, declaration and abatement of public nuisances. What it does is creates that a public nuisance in Pennington County from now on will be texting, reading or sending a text message while you're driving.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any questions or comments? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, item 14.
Next item, if you got an updated resolution that we're planning on sending to the state legislature, and I guess, if you don't mind, I'll read it.
Please do.
Pennington County Commission resolution in support of state legislation prohibiting the use of electronic communication devices to compose, read, or send electronic messages while operating a motor vehicle. Whereas according to the NHTSA in 2010, 3,092 people were killed in crashes involving a distracted driver, and an estimated additional 416,000 were injured in motor vehicle crashes involving a distracted driver. And whereas texting while driving is one of the most dangerous of all distracted driving activities because it takes your hands off the wheel and eyes and mind off the road. And whereas sending or reading a text averages 4.6 seconds, and at 55 miles an hour, that's like driving the length of a football field blindfolded, which creates a crash risk 23 times worse than non-distracted driving. And whereas without a uniform statewide law prohibiting such activity, motorists and pedestrians are subject to a checkerboard application of inconsistent local ordinances, further confusing those subject to the law and leaving significant populated areas without adequate safeguards in place. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Pennington County Commission, be it resolved that the Pennington County Commission is in favor of legislation being introduced and enacted during the 2014 legislative session, prohibiting the use of electronic communication devices to compose, read, or send electronic messages while operating a motor vehicle, duly passed and adopted by the Pennington County Commission this first day of October 2013. And I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution.
I'll second it.
Did you talk before you made the motion?
I wasn't talking, I was reading.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is item 15, lien release requests.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you?
Just fine.
I represent Kirk Murphy, who has submitted this request to you, asking that the liens on his property in the names of Arnold Barton Johnson, A.B. Johnson, Janice Johnston, and Karen Williams be released from his property. Mr. Murphy has been approached by the Ellsworth Development Authority to purchase his property as it's in the flight zone. Mr. Murphy's interested in selling the same, but the authority doesn't want to purchase this property with the liens on it. And so Mr. Murphy's trying to clean up the liens that are on his property. None of these liens have anything to do with himself. As I explained in our request, he purchased the property on a warranty deed, which warranted that there was no liens on the property. He later did a title search and found that there were several liens, including these 4 county assistant liens that we're seeking release from.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
I'm sorry, Cassidy Stolley, representing Kirk Murphy.
Thank you. Any questions or comments by the commission?
And just so you are aware, and I'm sure you know, that if you release these liens, they're just released from the property. They would not, the people would still have the liens on them. If they purchase another property, those liens would attach to that property. So they're not completely distinguished from these individuals, just from this property.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I take it then Mr. Murphy didn't know about these liens and other encumbrances on this property until after the fact?
Correct.
And that apparently, from what I read here, that the property was misrepresented.
Yes.
And I'm surely no attorney, but I guarantee if that happened to me, I'd be suing somebody.
Yeah.
So I will support the lien release.
Any further
That
comment?
deal be hooked up in.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to support it too, merely because of who the property is going to go to and declare it out of the
Yep.
flight path. But if it was anything else, I wouldn't. So there's a warranty deed, not our problem, once again. It's somebody else's problem. I don't think the taxpayer should have to pay it.
So, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to release the liens against Mr. Murphy's property.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
Not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Next item is the proposed Cane Creek land exchange letters. Who wants to start this off? Holly, or?
Good morning. I'm Martha Witcher, Emily Township Number 4 Clerk. In appreciation, we worked with Lindell Peterson, Leslie Merrill, Chairman of Scenic Township, and Mike Lehrkamp, and wrote the proposed letter as directed by the commission last week. Emily Township feels this is a very prudent letter and very well worded, and we appreciate Holly's efforts as well to word this and put this together. I think that it is a stand that we all are in agreement that we have to make at the Washington level.
Okay, Holly, do you want to comment on to whom this is being sent?
I can. The initial letters that were in your packets, I missed sending it to the Department of Justice, or excuse me, I missed sending it to the Department of Ag and the United States Department of the Interior. So those two changes have been added to the letters that aren't reflected in your packets. So I've been in contact with Mark from Senator Thune's office. He has indicated we just need to send it to Attorney General Holder and hope for the best to get it into the right hands in Washington. So
So the two departments that you mentioned will be added to the recipients as copied?
correct,
Copied
they
too.
have been done, yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, is the post office open for business today, or is that closed down too?
We'll send them an email.
What if is the Attorney General of the United States working today?
But see, that brings us to our point where the commission has been told, this brings us to a very good point, Commissioner. The commission, county commission have been told all this money is going to be coming from Washington. Our point is made. So, post office is open, I checked.
Any further discussion on the letter?
So do we need a motion to
We
have
need
your
a
signature?
motion to approve every commissioner's signature on the letter.
So, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve the signatures of the 5 sitting commissioners on these letters concerning the Cane Creek land exchange.
Is there a second?
Second. Along with the township, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
One last thing, if I may, Commissioners. Tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock in Scenic, we are going to have a briefing with patrons of said townships. There's 4 townships that are involved in this. We're going to have a briefing at the Scenic School at 7 o'clock. It's not a meeting, just an informational meeting, because we need to get everyone up to speed on what is actually going on with the laws and the rules that I have presented. So anyone is more than welcome to come if you'd like a drive to Scenic. Thank you for your time, and we'll all be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is item 17, a report on the Ag Taxation Committee efforts. Commissioner Troutman and Brenda Whiting.
Mr. Chair, I think I'll go down to the.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
While Commissioner Troutman is on her way to the mic, I just want to say that she's done a fantastic job of putting these meetings together every Wednesday out at the fairgrounds at the Walt Taylor Building, and appreciate the work that you've done on it. And
Whether we
looks good.
agree or not, thanks, Kim.
Yep, there you go.
I also commend you.
Well, first of all, when we agreed as a commission to have this committee, we didn't have a lot of direction. So the first meeting was spent figuring out what we should do as a committee, and I really want to thank, we've had great support from the public. We have 6 members on the committee that are from the public and have been very active. We have had many people coming to the meetings. We've kept it pretty loose because we wanted everybody to have a chance to say something. And I also want to thank the State's Attorney's Office and the Equalization Office, because they've been there every week and they've given us information and helped us with research and given us feedback, and it's been real valuable. And all of the commissioners at one time or another have been there, and that has been really important as we go forward with this committee. So I want to thank everyone for that. We, and one I can't forget is Holly Hennies. She's copied, she's took notes, she's done research if we needed it. I mean, you know, we're very fortunate to have somebody like Holly for support. Our meetings are every Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And at that first meeting, as we tried to figure out just what we were going to do, one of the things that became apparent was that we wanted to be solution-driven. We could sit there and we could gripe and gripe and gripe, but in the end, we wanted some solutions. And we've stuck to that, and I think that's really important. Also in that first meeting, we looked at what we thought were the most important focuses for the committee, and it became apparent that we were really kind of going to have to go in 2 directions, one looking at county and one looking at legislative issues. So we split into subcommittees, and Brenda Whiting stepped up and has really handled the county part of it. And so I was going to see if Brenda could come up and just kind of update us a little bit on what the county side has been doing.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brenda Whiting. And I, too, thank Nancy, Ron, Ken, and Lindell, and Holly very much for all their help in this. It's always nice that we can sit down and try and come up with a solution. At the county level, we have brought forth documentation, research, and ideas each week, trying to hash out what some of the problems have been coming forth to the Department of Equalization in this. Several different formats were presented by the forestry departments. Professionals came and talked. There were the Department of Equalization came forth. We had a lot of discussion on principal use. I think we had a lot of information brought forth, and there were actually ideas brought forth from both sides and discussed that maybe we all had a better understanding of what had been taking place in the past and maybe what could take place in the future. The committee has also talked with, in amongst itself, about how often a property may be reviewed in the future. That the committee came up with some suggestions with the Department of Equalization's input, and Shannon came forth with information and possibly a new format for a egg status criteria form to be sent out. And that was really helpful because some people in the past had said they had never gotten one. It'd been years since other people had received one. And I think when everybody's on board and they all understand what needs to take place, they'll be better at returning it to Shannon's office, and he won't be answering so many questions that maybe could have been taken care of beforehand. But I think everybody has come forth with information that has really been helpful. And whether we all agree or not, I do think there's been a lot of information passed back and forth, and we all understand the issue better. And I do thank you all for your support. Thank you.
One of the considerations that we took a lot of time, and actually we combined between the two committees, was how to do timber management as a purpose for ag. And so in your packet today, there is an initial draft. Of course, it's a changing draft, but as Brenda mentioned, we went to the foresters, the State Forestry Division, and the actually Nyman Timber, and we got some feedback from them, and we got a little more. We've gotten feedback from Jay and from Shannon, so this is a changing document, but certainly it's something that you can look towards in the future as we'll bring it forward to get some approval from the commission. So my side of it was really legislative, and we did have a meeting with the local legislators. We talked about some of the ideas that we had, but we really focused on SDCL 10-6-31.3, which has the 3 criteria for designating a property between 20 and 160 acres as ag for assessment value. We have had Mike Virtue take some of our thoughts and ideas to the Legislative Research Council. They've got some kind of proposals going right now. We're in the process of returning our thoughts, and the legislators are returning their thoughts, and I think that probably next week we'll be meeting with them again. The purpose is really to clarify a few things, terms like contiguous ownership, or there is some confusion on how you really get that ag designation, and we want to clean up the words. We're not saying that we don't want to pay taxes. We're not saying that we should scrap the law. We're just saying it needs to be cleaned up, and that's been the focus of the legislative. So we should be back probably next meeting on the 15th with more information from the legislative. We just didn't get that far this time. So if there's any questions for any of us, thanks, you guys, for coming, and I hope you continue. Oh, I'm sorry.
How many bill drafts did you get back?
We've just gotten there are 2 possibilities, but we have not, there's some language issues. One of the things that we definitely felt is if it's going to be designated ag, it needs to have an ag purpose, and that's really emphasized in those 2 new proposals. That's the base for being assessed as an ag property, and I think that was something that was a little hazy before. So,
And you hope to have those for the next meeting?
I do.
Okay,
So.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. Next item is item 18, items from the auditor.
No auditor.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think I don't know, I think we've already approved this, haven't we?
We just need to.
We just need to approve addition to the final supplement. I'm going to make a motion to do that.
Yeah, this, this is a supplement to approve $84,400 from
Accumulated
the
building tower project. And
Yeah.
tower
we've already done
project.
all of it except
So
this.
Karen, are you comfortable with the motion? Second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item 19, the items from Human Resources. Nick?
Good morning, Commission. Nick Stroud, HR Director, Pennington County. You have in front of you the latest updated version of the employee handbook. This project started by Commission approval back in December, and Holly and I have been working with department heads and a few other officials in the county to get this where it is today. We had planned on coming and asking for approval today, but with Commissioner Holloway not being here, I know he was involved in the process, and I personally don't know if he has anything he wants to add. So I guess what Holly and I are asking today is if anyone has anything that they need us to work on in the next 2 weeks, we'll be back trying to, hopefully with all the full commission, getting it approved then. But if there's anything in here that you're not comfortable with, you have questions about, some of the process, we have had 2 meetings with department heads. We had a meeting in this room, some spirited discussion, but it was good. We hashed out some things, and we really had a lot of positive feedback. The second one was at last month's department head meeting, where we talked a lot more about some of the changes. I gave people the forum to come and ask if they had any questions. Everybody seemed to be on board at that time, and I haven't heard anything since. So I know a few of the larger department heads like Kevin and Heine are here if they have anything that they want to add, but that's where we're at, so thank you.
So I think your point at this juncture is to get any guidance from commissioners or anyone else that would put us in a position to make final adoption of this on the 15th of October.
Absolutely, that would be my wish.
So, anyone at this point in time have any comments?
Mr. Chair, I guess what I'd like to hear from the sheriff and from Heine both, a couple of the largest employers in Pennington County. Well, the state's attorney's here too, so we can get him to make a comment about the employee handbook and what their feelings are about it. If everything is okay, and needs to be any changes, whatever.
Kevin? And Kevin and Stephanie, I wanted to thank them. They've been very instrumental in helping us move this along. Stephanie is his HR.
My philosophy about it is that the department heads are the ones that are gonna have to live with it, so they should be the ones that write it.
Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff, thank you. I think it's been a good process. Nick and Holly did all the work initially, doing the draft, and then we got to pick it apart. Had a good meeting where we discussed it and had some lively debate, and I think it's a good product. I think it's good for the employees. And did we resolve, there was a couple issues, the overtime or something else, we resolved those yet?
Yep, we didn't.
Okay.
We didn't change anything after discussion with department heads. We had attempted. We thought maybe a change to overtime was going to be what was needed after talking with Kevin, who employs half of the county, and then Heine, who has a large portion of the county. We left it as it is. It's been working for 20 years, so we were very open. And that was the process. We did a draft. We presented it. They said, no, this really works for us. So then we changed it back. We weren't beholden to any changes we made once we found out it wasn't working for the department heads. We were happy to do what was working for them. So.
And I think they worked with Joe Dreesen for some legal review of it, and that's been beneficial. And unfortunately, there's some federal mandates that creep into it that we don't have any control over, but it is what it is. So I think it's a good product.
Thank you.
And Heine worked with us quite a bit on a few specific policies, and we were really appreciative of his knowledge. Obviously, he just got a service award. He's been in here for a long time.
Yeah, Heine Junge, Pennington County Highway Superintendent. I I've reviewed it, the current draft you have in front of you, I reviewed it, and I think it's a good product. Holly and Nick have done a good job on it, and I guess I would agree with that, how it is written today in the draft, so I appreciate it. I need to clarify something on my 30 years of service on the Association of County Commissioners. I get to count my service in a different county too, so the two combined is 30 years, so I don't want anybody thinking, well, he ain't been in Pennington County for 30 years. So I needed to clarify that, but I've enjoyed it, and I got a good group of employees, and I think this handbook would be good for them too, and we don't see any problems with it.
Thank you, honey. I'm glad you clarified that as a deal because I was afraid somebody'd bring it up. Mark, do you have any comments?
Not a great deal, other than to reiterate that we appreciate the chance to take a look at it and have input into it before it was finalized. I think it's always beneficial to have things set down in writing so people understand what expectations are, and departments understand that they're free to, work off of this. So these are the basic county rules, and then for individual departments. I also appreciate the fact we're able to leave the overtime where it was. It seemed to be that was, for those that have it, the most appropriate. And so ultimately, there's nothing in here that we're worried about being able to enforce or being able to justify.
Thank you.
So we appreciate all the work that Nick and Holly put into it.
And I think Mr. Vargo brought up a good point. This does just set a base for the departments, and that it gives them something to work off of and gives them a solid foundation, hopefully a solid foundation, that's the goal, to then run their department off of that as they see fits.
Janet, would you care to comment?
No, I would just reiterate what everybody else has said. It's been a good process.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do we need a motion to carry this forward?
I don't know if you need a motion to, today was just more of an informational session. We'll put it back on the agenda, maybe for approval next time.
Yep. And part of the reason is to have all 5 commissioners have the opportunity to react or respond to it. Okay, thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
And thank you, Holly, for your efforts in this whole thing. At this point in time, item 20 has been removed from the agenda. And executive session is next, but our next item then is at 10:30, which is almost an hour from now, 50 minutes. So I'm going to suggest that we take items 23 and 24 at this point.
Okay.
And if that's acceptable, items from the chair, I will delegate Commissioner Buskerud to read a proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Quite a bit. Executive Proclamation for the State of South Dakota, Office of the Governor. Whereas at the end of 2012, there were 1,112 manufacturing businesses in South Dakota, providing 41,175 jobs. These manufacturers employ 10% of the state's workforce. And whereas manufacturing jobs have an annual average wage of $42,176, the majority of which offer benefits including health insurance, resulting in a total payroll of $1.7 billion that goes into the state's economy. And whereas manufacturers in South Dakota had a total output of $4 billion in 2012, which was over 9% of the state's total gross domestic product. And whereas South Dakota manufacturers produce a wide diversity of products, including machinery, food and beverage, fabricated metal, chemical products, computers and electronics, furniture, other wood products, plastic and rubber products, transportation equipment, and medical devices, and whereas manufacturers pay property taxes, sales, and use taxes, and make contributions to local community organizations, adding to the state's quality of life, now therefore I, Dennis Dugard, Governor of the State of South Dakota, do hereby proclaim September 30th through October 1st, 2013 as Manufacturing Week in South Dakota. In witness whereof I set my hand in the great seal of the State of South Dakota, Dennis Dugard, Governor.
Thank you, Commissioner Buskerud. Another item that I will put on this agenda item is I'll ask Holly to introduce our new employee.
And she is expected to give a speech.
5 minutes.
To introduce, this is Jessica Love. She is the new Assistant 2 supporting the Commission Office and the HR Office for Pennington County. So we welcome
Welcome,
her to our
Jessica.
rat race.
Another item that I'm going to bring forward for consideration in the future seems, and I'm sure other commissioners get this too, but this focuses somewhat on planning and zoning. But for some reason, people make a complaint about a neighbor. And it falls in the category of the ordinance, nuisance ordinance or whatever. And I've found situations where neighbors are constantly monitoring the activity of their neighbor and complaining about it over and over and over again. And it strikes me that in a situation like that, the complainer has some responsibility to live as a citizen and a neighbor and not take out their frustrations and or whatever else might be motivating them on someone that they can intimidate by continually bringing authorities to bear on those people's daily activities. Now, I don't know if there's any way to go someplace with that in terms of our state's attorney and county ordinances and that sort of thing. But I talked to Rex yesterday about a call that I had, and it was a matter of cleaning up after a fire that wasn't being accomplished according to the timetable. And in visiting with Rex, he says, oh yeah. He said, those people out there have surveillance cameras on each other. They're constantly stirring things up. And I'm convinced that government does not have a role in conducting the daily lives of people. So someone with some genius in terms of people's rights maybe can come up with something where when you get in a situation like that, people are given a responsibility to control their actions. That makes sense?
Is that kind of like is there anything you can do with harassment? Or?
We have a gentleman back there that has a comment.
Yeah.
Mark Vargo, your difficulty is going to be, commissioners, that short of false reporting, which is in and of itself an offense already, you're going to run difficulty if they keep telling you something and it's true, and they're just upset that the neighbor or the commission or the responsible county agency hasn't done anything. I'm not sure that that's going to rise to the level of harassment. When we look at the things that we are allowed to charge out as threatening or harassing phone calls, the case law that exists on that, it's going to be a very different animal than continually bugging a county agency saying, we continue to have this problem as long as what they're telling us is true. Now, if they tell us anything that's untrue, that becomes a different animal, becomes a form of false reporting. We probably can deal with that. Part of the answer might be that the county agency might first ask, is this a new complaint? Has anything changed since last time you called us? Are you providing us new information? And maybe that's one step you can take to kind of remind them that we don't need to hear from you repeatedly. We have a process we have to go through.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd just like to add something to that, and I've always felt that if you're being accused of something, you should have a right to confront your accuser. And the accuser's name should not be held in abeyance and still a complaint filed against somebody. And I've run into that a lot over the years, especially in planning and zoning and what you're talking about. So I really think that the names of the accusers should be out there to the person that's being accused.
That's all of my comments at this point. Should we go into committee reports? Yes. Yes.
My name's Clint Newley. I live out there at CNF Avenue. I spoke with you over the phone. My place is a place that burned down in December. I lost my dad in June. So it's been tough. And that was last year. This year. I'm cleaning up the place. I'm moving another mobile home on there, whether the neighbors like it or not. That's my land. I've done everything to clean up. The reason why I'm cleaning up by hand and not taking an excavator through there is because I found pictures of my dad. I found a flash drive that was not even damaged. There's miracles that are happening on that property. I want to take everything I can from the rubble and just sift through it because that's my stuff. And to be harassed over an 8-foot fence that the neighbor built, he's up on the ladder yelling at me and my sister. That's not right. He's got 2 surveillance cameras. He doesn't need to be up on that ladder. We've gone over and over. I've tried for a protection order against this guy. I was not granted. But the neighbor on the other side was chased out. To the south, north of him, he chased that neighbor out. And then, after I called the sheriff's department, and they've been out there several times. I mean, they know right where it's at. And I'm sure they're getting sick of all the complaints. That's the problem I have too. I mind my own business. I live my life. I don't live anybody else's life. It's a matter of bullying, big-headedness. After the sheriff's department came out there last time, sheriff told me, well, not the sheriff, but the deputy, I got his card, and he says if you have any problems, 3 neighbors standing on the corner just reminiscing on how to get me out of there. They don't want me there. I'm backed in a corner since day one. So that's the gist of it. I'm not going into details like all the crap that's happened in the past. I mean, you can pick up the police reports. I mean, ongoing, and it's repetitive. It's every month that something's going on out there. And if nothing's going on out there, then they're bored. Maybe they can offer to clean up and help, because that's what I would do. I know I have crappy neighbors, but that's the first thing I'd be doing.
Okay, I didn't realize who you were at this point in time. We just talked on the
Nice
phone.
to meet you, Linda.
Yeah. And so, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
If I might, Mr. Chair, I'm George Farabee, and I've been falsely accused. As recently as last fall, I was falsely accused and was that close to getting hauled to town for the 3rd time in my life. The 3rd time. Same person, of course. And I haven't even been able to see the report yet from last fall. I haven't gone to court. The cops tell me I have to have a court order to see the report that I was falsely accused of. It hurts. It really does hurt. That close to being hauled to jail the 3rd time, and that's my thanks for serving this country. For serving this country, I've been hauled to jail twice. Kept over the weekend, the 2nd time. A no bond arrest warrant for a distinguished military officer with a clean record until a neighbor decided to frame me. It hurts. You're damn right it hurts.
Okay, committee reports.
Well, I did attend the community health meeting last Thursday, and we're continuing to discuss the joint building project between Community Health and Pennington County to move the Health and Human Services office in that same building. They have made considerable progress, excuse me, to bring in some partners, both financially and service-wise. And so I'm very encouraged with where it's going. I think that it will be, in the end, a very good collaborative effort. And also, Healthcare Trust Board, we've been meeting and going through the changes that are coming up with our healthcare, our dental care, our life insurance, and our flex plan. And it's been a considerable bunch of work that committee has really been working hard. There's a lot going on with that.
Mr. Busker?
I have no committee report.
I'll pass, Mr. Chair. It's really exciting.
Okay. I have no further committee reports. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to go into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. To come out of executive session, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, we're back on the agenda, and item 22 is planning and zoning.
Morning, Dan Jennison, Pennington County Planning Director. Item 22, the consent agenda. The Board of Commissioners uses the consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and a vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. A is a minor plat 1319, Robert Tschetter, Fisk Land Surveying Agent, as the agent, and approval is recommended. Item B is the first reading and a public hearing of rezoning 1316 and comprehensive plan amendment 1310, Allison Lewis and Fisk Land Surveying as the agent, and approval is recommended. C is a minor plat 1318 and a subdivision regulation variance 1310, Wade and Sharon Reynolds, and approval is recommended with exceptions. Item D is a minor plat 1317 and a subdivision regulation variance 1309, Arlen Stratmeyer, and approval is recommended. Item E is a first reading and public hearing of rezoning request 1317 and comprehensive plan amendment 1311, Rapid City DSDP, the 8th LLC, Austin Rogers as the agent, and Jerry and Donna Olson as the owner, and approval is recommended.
Does anyone wish any of the items A through E removed from the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda for planning and zoning as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the planning and zoning consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item is item F.
Item F is the first reading and a public hearing of rezoning request 1314 and comprehensive plan amendment 1308, Mitch Morris, and this is to rezone 200.73 acres from general ag district to suburban residential district, and to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from limited ag to suburban residential district. Planning Commission had recommended to deny this without prejudice for both requests. This is located down on Highway 79, and he's looking to amend it or to change it to suburban residential district for future development in this area. The property recently has been sold through a sheriff's sale, and all of it was sold, and the redemption still has not taken place. And that was the reason why our planning department and planning commission both recommended that this be denied without prejudice until the redemption period has taken place. There was discussion at this that he is still the rightful owner, and it wasn't a unanimous vote that he still has the right to proceed, but the planning commission still felt it was something that should be denied until the redemption period is done.
That would be my motion.
Second. Third.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, those in, oh,
I think Mr. Morris is here. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Mitch Morris. I'm the applicant for this rezone request. And I guess I'm trying to determine what is the reason for denial with prejudice specifically? Is there one reason, multiple reasons?
Well, we believed that until the property was redeemed, that we didn't know what the potential owner would want on the property, so that was one of the reasons. And then the other reason is that at the last planning commission, it was discussed, the intertie station is located just to the north of this, and there was a study that was done that indicated that before any development were to take place on this property, that buffer should be in place and installed, which would include commercial and industrial type uses between the intertie and where this development were to take place. And that was part of the reasons why I believe staff recommended that this be denied without prejudice also until that development has taken place.
And the denial without prejudice allows you to attempt the rezone without paying fees again within a year.
I guess is the process to go through the same motion again to get the same answer back? I guess first off, I'm objecting to this. Staff has no position to make legal conclusions. I am the rightful owner yet and still have the rightful owner rights. There's been discussion of the noise vibration study, and I've asked the question, has the county adopted the study? Has the city adopted the study? At this point, I understand the county has not. Is that correct?
I believe they haven't formally adopted it, but I understand they don't have to formally adopt it to use it in making a decision as to whether or not to approve this rezoning.
And then there was some discussions of this meeting. I've met with the city numerous times. They have no objection to my land plan at this point. It conforms to their planning. That was a discussion that was, as I read the minutes of the last meeting, they denied it. Part of the vote of denying with prejudice is until I could meet with the city, until it met with some of their land plans, future land plans. This does meet within my land use plan conforms for the most part with the city's long-range land use plan and road arterial plan. And I've got copies of that if you'd like to see that. The rezone request is not a replat. The city has no jurisdiction over zoning, it's county only. The city's suggested that I go through this process and specifically zone this stuff for what my planned land use is. So I'm objecting to the denial. I can refile again next month if the denial going to be the same thing. I guess I would like specific reasons of the denial so that I can address those, change those, or deal with them. Just a denial without prejudice, without a criteria of the denial, I don't know how to proceed further or change the next request.
Joe, are you the purchaser at the sheriff's sale?
No, I'm the landowner.
You're the landowner?
Mhm.
Well, I'm not sure you're the landowner anymore, but you have a right of redemption.
I hold all ownership rights for the redemption period as well. I own possession, control, and ownership of it for that period, and rights to that.
And this is the land directly north of the tie out here, is that what you're claiming?
Actually, directly to the south.
South?
Southwest and east.
It is about, he's also turned in a request to rezone property adjacent to the intertie and along Highway 79 to suburban resident, or to general commercial. That was continued until such time that he applied for a conditional use permit because there's existing residents on the property. And that has to have this CUP to have that prior to a commercial use on the property. He has not yet applied for that conditional use permit. So that was continued to, I believe, the next planning commission meeting.
Further, Dan had mentioned that the noise vibration study requires a buffer between that. It doesn't.
It suggested
It suggests a buffer between that. In my rezoning request, I am also considering that buffer with the zoning request Dan just mentioned, which is general commercial, between my suburban residential and this substation. Zoning is not a development, is not a build. Zoning doesn't allow me to build, plat, or sell. It's the first step so that I can start land use planning for my intended uses. To build the buffer that's mentioned in there, first off, it may be a requirement prior to a building being done. It's not a requirement prior to a zone. It's a suggestion that once something is built, that they have a buffer zone between the residential portion and the existing substation. In my zoning request, that's what I'm trying to do.
So, Dan, I have a question for you. If what, and perhaps you've received some kind of legal direction on this, but I do think it's important for me to understand the legal direction. If we would grant this zoning and it would not be, the property would not be redeemed, the existing owner then is stuck with that zoning, whether they wanted it or not. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
For me, that's the issue. I do believe that we talked about, in our opinion here, we wanted to have some kind of documentation that said that the person who purchased the sheriff's deed was okay with that rezoning request. We didn't get that.
As I understood, it's not required. My attorneys told me it wasn't required and to proceed with my zoning
So then,
request.
for me, then I guess I can't support the rezoning because it's a simple request.
Mr. Chair? Yes. I think this needs to go back to the Planning Commission for their determination of what they would like to see happen with this property, whether it's a continuation of the rezone or whether it's something else, but I'd like to hear that from the Planning Commission. I'm just wondering if we wouldn't be better off to send this back to the Planning Commission's next meeting and let them sort it out. That's what they're there for.
It's sorted out as in regards
to what they're requiring and what you're requiring for continuation of this rezone.
Well, the Planning Commission did make a motion on it at the last Planning Commission to deny it without prejudice. And that was their recommendation to County Board.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we deny without prejudice rezone 1314 and comprehensive plan amendment 1308.
Is there
I
a
think that's
second?
already on.
Yeah, that's-
We already have that motion. I believe.
Oh, I didn't know we'd made the motion. I'm sorry.
Yep.
So we do have a motion and a second? Yes. Okay. Any further discussion?
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Is it, are you making this motion based upon the foreclosure sale?
I think that we have a very murky ownership right now. And we're granting something that we don't really know for sure how the ownership is going to come out.
Do you have any-
Is that a yes then?
The ownership, I don't know how more clearly to explain it.
Okay.
Obviously, your attorneys have said that you have all the bundle of sticks of the ownership. That would not be my understanding. My understanding is your rights to that property right now are the right of redemption. That's your right. Now, I could be wrong, but that's the way,
That's the way I understand.
that's the way I understand it.
Okay, any further discussion?
I have a comment.
Do you have a stake of the game?
Stephanie Strong, and I just wanted to comment to yours. I object to you saying that he doesn't have the legal right to his own property. You're wrong. We are based on John Locke rules and
What law school did you go to, ma'am?
law school of hard knocks. What about
Well,
you?
that's what I thought.
And you know what
Your
happened?
law degree, then he complained and said that we cannot be judging and knowing the law. You cannot. And so as soon as we get the state's attorney here, I'll be more than happy to argue the fact with you or him.
Then have a lawyer here that protects his rights from people
don't
like you
have to
that
do
are
that.
violating his rights of property ownership.
His responsibility to have an attorney here, not ours.
Okay, we're going to shut this down.
Thank you.
We speak to the motion
Or-
only. We're going to have a roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion carried. Item G, the Spring Creek Watershed Management and Project Implementation Plan, project update and feedback.
Good morning, Brittany Molitor, Water Protection Coordinator. Today I've invited Pete Jarvis with South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources. He's the non-point source manager for the department. And Barry McClurry, he is our Spring Creek Watershed Project Officer. I guess just a little background, we are in the second year of Segment 2. We've completed 4 years of monitoring, 13 completed BMP projects. I have asked them to come basically give an update on the project, where they see the future of the project, and to discuss the current proposal to DENR for the Segment 2 amendment and the additional funds for a full-time coordinator. So I guess I'd like to have Pete come up.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pete Jarvis, South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources out up here. I didn't really bring any prepared comments, I guess. I thought that maybe it would be best if you had some questions or any concerns that you might have with the project. Currently, the department is 100% behind this project. It's a good project. It's progressing as we normally see with our projects, and we want it to be successful. I don't know if you have concerns. For the most part, it's following the work plan that was set out. It's following the criteria that we have established for projects to follow. And it's been one of our better projects to date. And we hope that it'll continue into the future.
Mr. Chair? Pete, could you address the need for a full-time employee? Because I'm really unfamiliar with that until I read this information.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as projects go, generally they start out, of course, we have an assessment that is completed to determine the need and the issues that are out there. And then we move into what we generally call our first segment of implementation. And the first segment of implementation is there's some on the ground work that happens, but as a rule, it's getting the word out, the information, talking about the project, meeting with landowners and so forth and so on. And as these projects move into their second and third phases, if there's that much work to do, they get busier. And we've found that unless you have a full-time person running a project, you kind of put the project at a disadvantage. It helps to have that full-time person there. The public has access to them all the time, and it just makes the projects work better. All of our projects that we currently have active now has at least one full-time person that works for them. We have 3 projects that actually have a full-time coordinator and a technician with them. So, and without that administrative person there, it's pretty difficult for these projects to move forward and succeed.
So that person, who do they work for? They work for the state, or do they work for?
No, they work for the project sponsors.
Okay.
So, yes. We provide administrative, the 319 funding that we get through EPA is probably one of the only sources of funding to provide for administration of these types of projects. There's more money from other sources as far as on-the-ground implementation goes, and so we fill that role as far as, providing that administrative money. And if you look at most of the projects, and Spring Creek falls into that, about a third of the money that goes into these projects goes for administration, management, those types of things. And then the rest goes for, your on-ground type of activities, monitoring and so forth.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I wasn't able to stay at the last meeting that they had through the whole meeting, but this is the first I've heard of full-time people running these particular programs. And I guess I'd like to know, for the public's benefit and the TV camera, where the money comes from to pay these full-time people, and what do you do with them when the project's completed?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the money can either be, a lot of times, as I said before, there's very little money unless you have a local sponsor that has some money that they can contribute to paying part of the salaries of the coordinators. So in many cases, it's a combination of local money plus 319 non-point source dollars. We actually even have several projects that have 3 sources of funding. They've got local, they've got 319, and they also have some other USDA NRCS funds that go through our South Dakota Association of Conservation Districts. Just like any job, these projects aren't forever. They run their course. Of course, the goal is to delist the segments, clean up the issues that they're put in place to address. And when those, if that is successful, or if the project runs its course where you could run out of landowners, willing people that want to participate, then the project would probably close down. And then the employees would have to find other positions somewhere. Some of them move on to other projects, and some don't. So,
Any other questions?
Perhaps not so much for Pete, but more for planning and zoning. I believe that part of our match has been your work. How will that affect it if a person is brought in full-time?
Sure. Most of the stuff that I do is administration, paying, like the pass-through, organizing stuff. I think what this person would be doing is being out in the field essentially. 40, where I'm not, in the field 40 hours. It would be constant meeting with the landowners, working with the landowners on their projects and things.
So you would still maintain that match? We wouldn't have to try to change and come up with cash or something somewhere? It's...
My understanding is I'd still be doing.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, correct. We require a 60-40 match, but there are enough dollars coming in through other sources, and Brittany's time is one of those sources of match. So this is the increase as far as putting on a full-time coordinator at this point in time would be covered with $319.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chair. Pete, not to put you on the spot, but since the EPA isn't here to answer the question, maybe you can, but I've always felt that this program was probably leading down the road like a lot of other government programs do to a finally I got you program. And now you're going to pay, when we say you, the county taxpayer is going to have to pay to clean all of this stuff up that we've found that's there that has a problem with it. Is that where these programs wind up, do you know, or?
I guess,
I can
Mr.
see
Chairman,
that.
Commissioners, I guess it's hard to answer that. Right here standing before you today, I would say no. The 319 non-point source program is a voluntary program. There's no regulation behind it. The states are required to do the total maximum daily loads to determine any issues as far as beneficial issues or beneficial uses that have been assigned to a particular water body. But will EPA at some point in time come in and force the state first to go in and fix all of these things? And at this point in time, the answer would be no.
Anything further? Not, Brittany, do you move forward?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pete.
So item H is the Spring Creek Watershed Management and Project Implementation Plan Advisory Group recommendations. So the advisory group met on September 11th and made 3 recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners. These recommendations were presented to you on September 20th, 2013. The 3 recommendations were that the Pennington County Board of Commissioners approves 2 riparian applications, SPC 2013 PC 98A and SPC 2013 PC 105, and 2 on-site wastewater treatment applications, SPC 2013 PC 98B and SPC 2013 PC 101B, and allows the applications that were not funded to remain pending and to be considered with the next round of applications. So did you want to go recommendation to discuss each one individually? So on those 4 application recommendations, staff, I know in your packet it said that it was recommendation that SPC 2013 PC 98B be continued, but the property owner on SPC 2013 PC 101B would also like that to be continued until more information can be gathered. And that on SPC 2013 PC 98A, that it be funded at $11,250 and not $8,800 because the topographic land survey indicated the channel degradation was worse than originally anticipated. The 2 riparian applications, I know one of them you do have in your packet, 105. So if you have questions regarding that.
I'm going to make a motion to continue the 2 on-site wastewater treatment systems, 98B and 101B. My motion is to continue those.
Second.
Which ones are you referring to?
The 2 on-site wastewater treatment systems that Brittany is recommending we continue to get more information, and that would be my motion.
And did we have a second?
Excuse me, when do we get to make comments?
The motion is to continue those two for further study.
Well, I think you said for further information, yeah.
Yes.
So if you could have something to contribute to the motion itself in your comments, come forward. If not,
Thank you. Stephanie Strong, I just wanted to get some clarification. So I had went to the Spring Creek Advisory Committee meeting. I saw you there. So I just want clarification on the motion that's at hand. Is it just for the ones that are going to be continued, or there's other ones that are going to be blanket approved, is what I'm asking, just for clarification to that.
These two are the ones that, the only ones up for consideration today, as far as I understand it, correct?
Right now, yep.
For the on-site wastewater, there's two of them for recommendation today, and the motion is to continue both of those.
Both of
So none of
those.
them are being approved.
None of them are being approved. Okay, thank you.
That's
I
the way
appreciate that.
understand it.
Thank you.
Well, yes, there's two on-site wastewater treatment applications for approval and two riparian.
Yep.
We're just asking that these two be continued.
Yep, that's all I was talking about, was on-site.
okay, are we clear?
I am.
We ready to vote? There's no further discussion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
So were there any questions on, I know in the packet that you had the information. Are there?
I take it that for the riparian 98A, we don't have any information on that in the packet? Oh, I guess I haven't looked at that. Why is that confidential? I gotta ask, why is that one confidential and the other one isn't?
Justin Kraske with Respect Consulting. That has been determined by Patrick Godey with the State's Attorney's Office regarding the information that Brittany and I provided him regarding the Section 1619, also other confidential laws for the state of South Dakota. He did not sign a disclosure. We did ask for him to sign a disclosure. As on Sullivan's, he did sign the disclosure on that, so.
Well, I guess I'm gonna vote against this because I cannot see spending $24,000 of taxpayer money on something that we aren't gonna tell them what it's about.
No.
And I can't do it.
What's that?
Isn't Sullivan's, he did sign the release of information.
Sullivan's did sign
It's the,
Yeah, so Sullivan did.
Oh,
Other one.
all right, it's the other one.
okay.
Yeah, it's, I think,
Yeah, okay, it's only $11,000 of taxpayer money.
Correct.
That we're not gonna tell them what we're spending it for, and I can't do that. Yeah, especially on a stream that is a navigable stream that's owned by the people of the state of South Dakota. Or the United States, I don't know which one.
Whoever wants to claim it's got the most money, yeah?
Yeah. So that's the way I feel.
Okay, so where are we?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd make a motion to approve the project of the Sullivans as presented, and to postpone the other one that will not allow the information to be made public until such time that Brittany or Respect can work out those details.
Is there a second?
Excuse me, when can we make comments on this one?
Ma'am, would you wait until the motion is even seconded before you jump up and hold your hand in the air? Appreciate it. But we're trying to get the motion and a second here. Okay? You never have.
Okay. Motion died for lack of a second.
Maybe what we could do is just do one at a time. So I would move to approve the riparian application SPC 2013 PC 98A, which is in the amount of 24,000, is that 350? I lost my,
No, actually, that one's the 11,250. The
okay, I'm sorry.
105
Yeah, that's right.
is the 24,350.
And that's 98A, is that 1 year?
That's Ally.
105 is the one that's in your packet
Okay, we're
for
gonna-
24,350.
Okay, let me just start this over, because now we're getting all confused. I move to approve SPC 2013 PC 105 for Daniel Sullivan in the amount of 24,350.
Is there a second?
And then we'll move to continue the other one, but let's keep.
Motion died for lack of a second.
He did. I do believe Mr. Sullivan did disclose, so.
Yes. Do you have any questions regarding that project at all?
Okay, let's see. Why don't you review for us where we are in terms of what you wanted to present to the board today?
Okay. This is one of the recommendations from the advisory group that was presented to you on September 20th. They recommended approving 2 riparian applications and 2 on-site wastewater treatment system applications, and to allow the other applications that were not funded to remain pending and to be considered with the next round of applications. There was a motion to continue the 2 on-site wastewater treatment system applications, which were 98B and 101B. Those were continued. Now the question is the SPC 2013 PC 98A and SPC 2013 PC 105 are still up for consideration. The 98A, the request was to increase the request from 8,800 to 11,250.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Brittany asked if there was specific problems. I guess I understood to take it that way, and I guess my specific problem is this, where it says information that's spent in the taxpayers' money is confidential. And I don't like that And that's why I made the motion the way I did, to approve one that gave all the information and signed the waiver, and to postpone the other one to give them a chance to do the same.
Well, I think the motion is to approve the one that gave all the information.
That's what it was. I thought maybe it'd help to split it, so that's why I did it that way, Ken. So,
At this point, we have no motion,
no motion.
at least one, none that's been seconded. So in order to move forward, we need something.
Well, in order to move forward, I'm going to make the motion to approve it. And with the proviso that doesn't mean I'm going to vote for it, but we need to get a vote.
On which?
On the one. On
Sullivan's?
105, the 105. yeah.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it since it's the same
Okay.
motion that I made.
Hold on.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve 105 or 10, whatever it is.
To clarify things, Mr. Chairman, I'd like a roll call vote. When you're ready to vote.
Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Once again, I'm George Farabee, and if you recall last meeting, under public comments, I pointed out to the board that I attended the Spring Creek Advisory Group meeting. None of these projects, zero of the projects were talked about relative to merit. The only discussion that I recall, and of course I could be wrong, obviously, but the only discussion I recall on the riparian projects, the stormwater projects, the on-site wastewater was, is there any money left in that pot? Which is a beautiful transition. I'm guessing I saw the TV correct this morning. The federal government shut down. But yet the money wheel just keeps, printing press just keeps it going and going and going. As a sidelight, I was surprised coming by the Forest Service. I thought they were part of the federal government. I didn't go count the cars in the parking lot, but driving by, I'm guessing about the same number of POVs were in that parking lot. I didn't know they were essential like military, but anyway.
Yeah, are you speaking to the motion?
I'm speaking to the motion. I know where the Sullivan property is. It's right next to the Luden's property. We're going to spend $18,600 on rocks. If we rock the entire creek, which is already rocky, by the way, we're in the billions of dollars. So why are we doing this? Why didn't the Spring Creek Advisory Group talk about the merits? Those were the people that sat in this room a couple weeks ago. They sat in this room in a semicircle, and they're supposed to be your technical advisors. I didn't hear a thing about the merit of the rocks, a grade stabilization structure, $9,600. And I guess I'm sorry, I don't know what the hell a grade stabilization structure is. We're going to put in a riparian forest buffer. For what purpose? To keep the deer away? I don't believe there's any cows, unless, maybe a stray cow can wind up most any place, as you and I know, Lindell. Some places quite surprisingly sometimes, but I think one cow is probably not going to justify this project. So what's this riparian forest buffer for? And we talk about riparian work, is it 10 feet from the creek or 50 feet or 100 feet? How far is this riparian exclusion from the creek? And in most cases in the hills, you go back 100 feet, most all your grass is gone or inaccessible to we, the people that should be using the grass. Anyway, the overarching thing, other than the fact that we're broke, is what has this got to do? What has this got to do with reducing fecal coliform? The stated objective, rightly or wrongly, The stated objective of this project is to reduce fecal coliform and then by extension E. coli, or the new topic is E. coli, fecal coliforms, sort of taking a back seat. $24,000 total for a little bitty short stretch of the creek. You multiply that times all of the creek, and we're talking billions of dollars for a little bitty segment of the world that you look down and you wouldn't even be the size of a dot. What the hell are we doing this for? The disclosure thing is a joke. I haven't been able to talk to the NRCS chief for South Dakota yet, but I'm not too sure technically that this form can be used the way it's being used. This is a USDA form, authorization for release of information. Why Warren Alexander didn't sign it, he's the other project guy, by the way, Ron. Why he didn't sign it, I don't know. I can speculate. But he's the one that didn't sign. But if Sullivan, if this project goes forward, I'm sure going to ask Darrell Sullivan. He checked the block or initialed it. Refer other farmers. Well, I'm not a farmer and I'm a rancher, and there's a difference. At least a part-time rancher. But I presume that's an interchangeable word. But I'm sure going to impose upon him to share his project with all of us. They get a little cow dung on their boots on occasion. But all the rest of these things he just signed, and I don't know Darrell very well, but I'm surprised that he did this. Folks, what the hell are we doing? Washington shut down. We're dead broke. And this is on Dead Broke Street. How appropriate.
There is interest in it.
How appropriate. I'd like to get somebody from national TV to say, dead broke, and here's Pennington County. By God, they're going to make sure we just add a little bit more of dead broke. Thank you.
Hello, Stephanie Strong. I also went to the advisory meeting for Spring Creek, and then down in Keystone, went and talked to those folks that came in from Denver and some other folks that were down there. And my big problem with this is when talking to them, there is not a way that you can test with the equipment they're using for the E. coli that's harmful for you. And so the labs that are coming up with the E. coli and the procedures for taking the tests don't really give you a true form of E. coli, and if it's the bad E. coli for you. So there are, you have Respect as a one-source company, and there are several real-time testing folks out there in the free market that would, if we have an E. coli problem, first off, they have the proper equipment to say if it's bad E. coli, because they do all of the tests. It's been tested at the Mayo Clinic and other places so that you can determine what the E. coli is.
At some point, explain to me how these comments relate to the motion.
Well, I object to you passing any of the projects on the Spring Creek watershed projects. I object to all of them. It's a false test. We need a free market out there showing that there's not bad E. coli in there. And then for the ones that were funded, okay, how long has it been funded? Have you went back and tested if it's even helped? Has anybody done that? And, in sitting in these meetings, commercial people who are already going down the process and spending monies to take care of their problems of any things that come in, they're getting these funds. So it's not limited. Is it helping? Where's the proof that what you've spent on so far has worked? I told Respect, I said, if you could show me the proof with good data, good testing procedures, I'm in. But I need the proof that it's worked and that, number one, because there is E. coli out there, that it is bad E. coli. Number two, that the proper testing's being done, and that the proper procedure for taking the tests, because if you have a real-time test, you take that test, you put your sample in there, and you keep that cold. You know, you're at 4 degrees so that your E. coli doesn't grow, first off, even if it's bad. And then you get it to the proper facility. Microbiologists, you know, we have them here in South Dakota that we can get on board with that and get the free market involved, so that when you're going to look at a riparian project or a septic project, you know, it made me sick to see about, you know, the septic systems are costing anywhere from $12,000 to $25,000. And septic, you know, your riparian projects, what if those were put out on the free market? You're going to take $24,000 for that? How much is riprap? You know, you got to start asking yourself questions. When I go for a bid, I call like 10 people and say, okay, here's what I've got coming in. This is what you can do. This is what you guaranteed. This is where my proof is. Show me the proof, and stop giving money to one company that doesn't have to prove anything. So, thank you.
Any further comments? We have a motion and a second. And you want a roll call vote?
I would, please. No.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Tie vote. Motion failed.
Is it, or is it held over till the next meeting?
Okay,
They've convinced me.
go ahead.
Okay, recommendation number 2 is that the Pennington County Board of Commissioners allows a continuous cost share application submittal for segment 2. The advisory group would meet at least twice per year, but not more than quarterly, to consider the applications and make recommendations.
Excuse me, but did we do the other one?
Oh, the 98A.
Yeah. Did we?
The 98?
No, we didn't do that one.
No.
No, we did not.
Yeah, I think I kept them separate.
Okay.
So, I think. What was the motion that we just voted on? It was just 105, wasn't it?
Yep.
Correct.
So we got 10, we got 98A to do?
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve, do you want me to read that whole thing? The riparian application SPC 2013 PC 98A.
Second. I'll second it to get off dead center. Roll call vote.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, next.
So now recommendation number 2, again, I apologize. The Pennington County Board of Commissioners allows continuous cost share applications submittals for segment 2. The advisory group will meet at least twice per year, but not more than quarterly, to consider the applications and make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners.
I make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Wait a minute.
I would like, Stephanie Strong, I would like a little clarification about that if we could. If the advisory board meeting is going to be every so often, and then when folks are signing up for this federal trough here, how do they get approved then for the money?
I thought it was pretty clear. At the meetings, they'll be doing that.
Which meetings?
Making recommendations. The advisory council or advisory group will meet, review, and recommend, and then we will do the final approval.
Twice a year?
Up Not more than quarterly.
Not more than quarterly. So every quarter, that's when it's going to come in front of this board again.
Not necessarily.
Okay, how's it going to work?
Did you read this?
Yes.
Well, then, it was pretty clear.
Well, explain it to me, please.
No, because we just did.
Okay, I object because for them to be taking applications on these on a continual basis, no deadlines for these applications, so that you're going to have a ton of people here signing up with this, and then we don't have to hear about it, and then it's just randomly passed. I object.
Have you been listening today?
Yes.
Did we randomly pass them all?
And
we haven't passed any of them.
And the segments
been
have
listening.
time limits. If you read this, the segments have time limits.
What I would like to see is that you say, we're done, we're defunding this.
Wow.
We're getting everybody off the federal trough on this number here. Because what else is going on, and I don't know that if you guys are aware, but as folks are voluntarily signing up for these projects, they're giving their rights, their freedom, and their liberty away, because when they do that, they are giving access in a way of easements for water rights and mineral and gas and oil rights. And I think that you are not aware of how it impacts the property owners and what happens to them legally with that. So that's why I wanted it to, that's why I said, defund all of it, get out of it. What good has it done? Do you have any proof?
You're done.
Thank you.
I'd like to suggest an amendment to the motion, that being that the advisory group look at the merits of each and every project. That wasn't done last meeting at all. If they're not going to advise on the merits, then why do they even meet?
Perhaps that's the message we're sending them today.
Thank you.
Actually, I'd like to make comment to that. We do have a ranking list, and if you do look at this ranking sheet, there is a ranking list. They go out and they look at the projects. There's a total number of points. There's a percentage of points. The advisory group didn't even consider anything that was not even meeting 50%.
That's right.
They have been very selective. If you look at all the applications that were received, most of them had very high merits as far as the ranking. So to say that we didn't look at the merits of the project, I don't believe is true when you have the rankings.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, specifically the one up for consideration right now, 98A, is 76% of the max points on a technical ranking sheet that has been adopted, reviewed by this commission and the advisory group at least a handful of times. We try to revise it with every monitoring season data and have the advisory group review that, recommend it. The 105, the Sullivan project, quite simply, technically, I'm at a loss of how you could have, it's 95% of the current technical ranking for that project. So for that one not to get approved, I'm not sure we'll have to go back to the technical ranking to try to address some of your concerns or anything with the advisory group. But that's where they stand. They are technically ranked.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the word I used was discuss. I don't know that if the people in this room a couple weeks ago sat around, if they looked at the rating sheets, that I don't know, and there's no way for me to know that. But I do know they didn't discuss it, which means that apparently nobody had looked at those items like I did. I wanted to discuss them, and I was denied. The public was denied input. As I pointed out last meeting, one of the rating sheets, I got 95% of what? Anyway, as I pointed out, you and I, by law, have to control our noxious weeds. In Hill City, they don't, because the state law doesn't apply to them, unfortunately. So they can have spurge in town, but you and I can't have spurge on our place without getting fined, okay? Sullivan's outside of town, outside of Hill City. They're going to have to give him this guy give him 75 points or 50, whatever it was. This technical ranking sheet. Wow, technical. Anyway, for controlling noxious weeds. He has to control noxious weeds or get fined. So why is he getting points to do it? I pointed out last meeting. Another thing I pointed out was stream bank restoration. Why in the hell tear up the stream bank in the first place? You got points for restoring the stream bank. And then for taking pictures or sampling the creek. Really, really technical stuff. The objective is to reduce fecal coliform, E. coli, to reduce bacteria. And putting rocks and agreeing to take pictures and agreeing to sample the water and noxious weeds, which he has to do anyway. Let's get real. At some point, reality has to kick in here. Go ahead. Thank you.
Sit down, please. Sit down, so if you're not at the podium speaking, sit down. Mr.
So 2 others can stand up here, but I can't stand with somebody else. Thank you.
Wayne.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the specific technical ranking on the noxious weeds within a forest buffer was recommended by Scott Guffey, the Pennington County Weed and Pest Coordinator, to try to facilitate more of that so that it could possibly save some of their time regarding some of these projects.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear all of it, but here's what I'm going to tell you. That I appreciate what you've done and the technical ranking and how it all fits into this schedule. And if that's all we had to consider, we wouldn't have to be here and make a decision. You'd be making a decision based on numbers. See, we have other things to consider, and that's what we are doing. I mean, and I appreciate what you do because that's an absolute necessary part of what we do. But you know, if everything was based in black and white and numbers, you don't have to worry about us anymore. We don't have to be here. You know, then the bureaucrats just control the whole thing. Unfortunately for you, you have some of us up here.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Buskerud, I appreciate having to answer these questions and, answering to the validity of this project, because I think it has been successful, as not only your state coordinator has said so, but people on the ground. You can ask the people that have been through it and ask what type of improvements. That's your, and some of the commissioners have met with those folks. But if we go through developing a process, which we have, and we get to the point where I can't get anything approved, I need some insight. Brittany and I need some insight on what we can do to get these approved. So I don't mind changing what we need to change to make it better, but I do need some insight, and I appreciate the feedback that you do provide.
Thank you very much. A suggestion was made to me, and I'll make it to you folks. Very good suggestion. Let's us, locally, let's go to EPA through Pete. Let's go to EPA. This is not my idea. I won't take credit for it. I'll just pass it on. Go to EPA and say, okay, there's this pot of money, and all these folks on Spring Creek and Battle Creek and Belfouche River and all these folks that want to participate, give them a low-interest loan. And I have no problem with that. And then see how they're incentivized. A low-interest loan to them, and they foot the bill. The taxpayers' only kick-in is the margin of interest. Now, I'll go along with that. That I will compromise on. But if Darrell Sullivan and Warren Alexander and Dale Kerstead and Robert Lowry, if they want to improve their backyards, give them a low-interest loan. But don't take a whole big bundle of money out of my grandkid's pocket. Go to EPA, Pete, and ask him if that's a possibility. Low-interest loan. Thank you.
Karen, do we have a motion and a second?
And what is it?
And I,
The recommendation, Pennington County Board of Commissioners allow continuous cost share application submittals for segment 2. And then the advisory group will meet at least twice per year, but not more than quarterly to consider the applications.
we have a motion and a second, and I think as all of us can recognize, I've been a little bit liberal with allowing comments so that people can air their thoughts, and most of them did not relate to the motion. So I may not be as liberal later on, but at this point, we'll call for a vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I voted aye.
Okay, the third recommendation was that the Pennington County Board of Commissioners approves the Spring Creek Watershed Management and Project Implementation Plan Segment 2 amendment and submits it to the South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources for consideration. It's a proposal. Basically, in that proposal, there is the funded full-time coordinator. There's money for monitoring, and then probably the biggest portion of it was to extend the project out until May 31st of 2015, extend this segment out till May 31st of 2015.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I see the 319 funds went from 510, and then it said plus 348. Where'd that 348 come from?
That came from last year.
From what we didn't spend out of segment 1?
No, the 348 is the additional request of the amendment. That's with the full-time personnel and monitoring. That's, because right now we're in segment 2. This is the amendment to segment 2, requesting the full-time personnel, the monitoring, and then to extend segment 2 out till May 31st of 2015. This is just a proposal at this time. It still has to go through DENR, the task force, the Board of Water and Natural Resources, and the EPA.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm feeling bad today. The government shut down, and I said it once before on a highway project that maybe we should just send all this money back and say, apply it against our deficit. And you know what? I'm getting real close to doing that on this project.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I could almost agree with that. The problem is that they won't apply it against the deficit. They'll send it someplace else and let them spend it, so.
It'll go to some other
Typical
project.
government operation. Doesn't make any difference how broke you are, you just chalk it up and not a word but broker.
Well, my motion on the highway project didn't fly either, so don't feel too bad. I'm sorry, I don't think I can vote to pump
To
more
even-
money into this project.
However, it's just to send it to the state to be approved, and then we would come back and vote on it again. Am I right?
Well, basically, it goes in front of DENR and then the task force, and then before it gets submitted, because it'll change. The proposals typically, I've never seen them stay the same. They typically change
And then it'll be
before they
brought
come
back
back.
to us.
Typically, have we brought them back? I believe we have, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the process is that if the deadline is actually today for the proposal, October 1st to DNR, if that goes to the task force, they make a recommendation to the Board of Water Management Resources, if I'm correct. That goes to EPA, and then a final agreement usually comes back, typically January, February, for final approval with final budget numbers. These are proposed.
The 319 funded full-time personnel, is that gonna be you in our office?
No.
No?
There's many options, and it would be up to you guys as the project
Whose employee
sponsor.
is it gonna be?
Pardon?
It's gonna be our employee.
It could be, you could contract it, you could do a contract person within the department. There's many options, I guess, at that time when, if it gets approved through
How
all
much
of
money does
those.
it pay? I'm looking for a job.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the Spring Creek Watershed Management and Project Implementation Plan Segment 2 Amendment and submit it to the South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources for review.
And then it comes back to us, correct?
Mhm.
For final approval sometime.
Once it goes through all of those, essentially the contract with DENR comes back to you guys with the final thing. So if you want to continue it.
I'll
and sign
second the
that-
motion so that we can talk about it.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair, did that motion include in starting hiring full-time employees?
No, because we aren't approving the contract yet. We don't know if that'll be approved.
It's with the
I just want to get
300.
that on tape.
Sure. No, it's with the total requested amount that includes that full-time personnel.
Any further discussion?
I recommend, as before, another motion, and that's just to hold everything until the folks with the printing presses decide whether they're going to keep the printing presses going. Well, this thing in Washington is all about the printing presses, and this money, this is not side money. This is not mad money. Well, it's all mad money. But the house is on fire. Why don't we stop and put the fire out before we add some more fuel to it? I suggest you're my government. You're our government here locally, and when I say stand up, we recognize that there's a big problem. Don't have money. We live beyond our means for a lot of years now. And yet we just keep it on going like nothing's happened. We have stuck, you folks, my government has stuck $678,609.14 in Respect Consulting's pocket. And what do we have to show for it? You just, basically zero to show for it. And just so you know, the other day, somebody looked up on the internet the house that the CEO of Respect lives in is $500,000. Basically every dollar has been garnered from taxpayers. I would suggest you make a motion just to put things on hold until we see what the big boys are doing, the big boys and girls. Thank you.
Stephanie Strong. I object to funding the rest of this. I say defund this mess right here.
Mr. Chair, the motion is not about funding. It's just passing it on to the next level. We are not at that point yet.
How much does that cost to send it up the ladder? Because when I was at the two meetings, I understood by listening to people about what it costs for it to go up the ladder to see if it's going to be approved. That includes hotels and food and phone and everything that goes along with getting a project passed. So how many dollars with it? And then I asked Respect, I said, okay, help me understand about this $765,000. And he said, well, that's extra. So he already had gotten extra with that. And then if you look at the Cheyenne TMDL, it encompasses all of the creeks. You know, Battle Creek's next, and it's like, talk to that young feller down there in Keystone, and I said, well, Battle Creek, that's empty most of the time. I said, what are you going to do here? And he said, the fish. Well, if it's empty, sometimes the fish are going to die.
Okay.
So defund it.
You're done.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have, let's see. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, this will be an easy one. Item I is the Spring Creek Watershed Management and Project Implementation Plan Participant Agreements. I would just request the motion that they be continued.
My motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to continue item I till what?
Well, we have to revisit the other 4
Yeah, but
projects
do you have
before.
a specific date or whenever you're ready to come back?
Well, basically, we have to revisit them when the other 4 are approved, so, or if they are.
Full-time employees come in.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, just one question.
Yeah.
When does the full-time employees vote come in here? Because I think we jumped right over the top of that.
Well, we aren't,
Hmm?
we aren't even authorized to do that yet. It's got to go through the process.
Okay.
We're gonna look at this.
But there was no discussion about that today in anything that we did, other than I asked questions earlier to Pete. So
Mr.
you
Chair,
postponed it.
Davis, I think it would be January, February is typically when we see that agreement come back from the DNR to Pennington County. However, given the federal shutdown, that could be later, and we've seen that in past projects.
Well, I can
Perhaps in the
guarantee you
March.
folks this, I don't know about the rest of them, but I will never vote to hire a full-time employee to take care of this. Whether contractual or personal employees of Pennington County. We've got lots of other things to do rather than this one.
Okay,
I have a comment.
about postponing this?
Yes. Thank you.
Make it short.
Okay, just postpone it indefinitely because when you spend this money here, it raises taxes everywhere else, and we've seen that here. So please, you guys, if you're spending this money, it causes higher taxes someplace else. So thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Items from the public.
I have one more thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I want to make a motion to reconsider item 22F, which is the Mitch Morris rezone, and I'll bring it up next, I'd like to bring it up at the next meeting. I did some research with our state's attorney's office, and I think there's probably something that we need to reconsider that for.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Sure.
And I thought at the next meeting to give him a chance to be here.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
There's the owner of the property and a little bit.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
So what we gotta do is
make a motion that we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Wait a minute.
hinted about that.
Wait a minute.
I still want to deny it. I just want to do it with more.
Already asked if there was any other input from public or anything.
Did you have something, Dan?
Am I?
Don't give it to him.
Yeah?
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Holly?
Sit down.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn, is there? Or,
No, just wondering if you had made that, what we had discussed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I thought we voted too.
no, we
No, I'm
we
talking
haven't.
about, I made a
No.
motion to adjourn and everything else got in the way.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have. Did we vote on your motion?
Did we vote on the motion to?
Yes, we did.
Reconsider?
Okay.
So we put that on the
So
agenda.
now we have the motion to adjourn in a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.